Welcome to the 700 Club. Hezbollah was planning a massive assault on Israel that would have been even worse than the Hamas attacks on October 7th.
Israeli forces in Lebanon are capturing the weapons that would have been used in those attacks. Paul Strand brings us the story from Jerusalem.
In southern Lebanon, the IDF is showing the world Hezbollah was set to use many homes just across the border from Israel as launching pads for a massive invasion of the Jewish nation.
Every house is a terror base.
The IDF's chief spokesman says Hezbollah's elite Radwan units were set to strike from 6 of these locations simultaneously with some 4,000 to 6,000 terrorists. They used all these homes for weapon storage.
You see the hand grenades here? Sniper rifles. Extremely high sniper rifles.
The IDF says the invasion would have even been bigger than Hamas's October 7th attacks. Hezbollah had placed its terrorists along the border days after those attacks, waiting for the order to strike. While Israel prevented that potential invasion, it's also promising to strike back at Iran for launching more than 180 ballistic missiles at it last week. And Israel's defense minister says it will hit hard.
Our attack will be lethal, precise, and above all, surprising. They will not understand what happened and how it happened.
But a senior Iranian military advisor is warning for every one location Israel hits, Iran will target dozens of Israeli locations, both civilian and military. And the UN's Relief and Works Agency is back in the news, this time as a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize, after being nominated in February by a Norwegian politician. It's believed at least 9 Gazans on UNRWA's payroll may have taken an active part in Hamas's brutal assault on Israel October 7th. So there's fresh outrage this week that the committee picking the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize refused to remove UNRWA's nomination, despite protests from thousands of people. UNRWA critic Hillel Neuer of UN Watch was furious at predictions the UN relief agency could have won.
It would be really an abomination. It would be obscene.
Ayelet Samaranu's son Yonatan was murdered on October 7, and then an UNRWA social worker hauled his body off to Gaza. Ayelet is disgusted UNRWA was in the running for the prestigious Peace Prize.
We're talking about an organization that has taken a very active part in the murder, rape, and kidnap of innocent people.
The UN Secretary General, who's been critical of Israel, and the UN International Court of Justice were also nominated, but none of them won the prize, which went to a Japanese organization of atomic bombing survivors. Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Let me remind everyone, the UN was supposed to keep southern Lebanon as a weapons-free zone. And here Israel is showing the evidence that, well, there are a lot of weapons. In fact, every single home along that border was used to store them. And you go, well, where was the UN? Where was the resolve to maintain peace? And instead of maintaining the peace, they're actually funding the war. UNRWA had salaried employees who were part of Hamas and participated in the October 7th attacks. It is absolutely mind-boggling that that would be allowed to happen. But then there would be criticism from the UN when Israel stands up and says we can't have UNRWA operating in our territory. It's obviously compromised. We just can't have that. Let's recognize the truth here and recognize that the UN seems to be arrayed against Israel. And anything coming out of that organization directed at Israel shouldn't be allowed to stand. And the U.S. should stand absolutely against it. Well, here at home, Jews also face threats against their lives right in the U.S. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. Jews around the world, as well as here in the United States, will observe Yom Kippur beginning tonight. It is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. American Jews, though, also face growing threats simply because of who they are. 6 years ago this month, an armed gunman killed 11 people at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, the worst massacre in the history of the American Jewish community. CBN's Wendy Griffith spoke with a security expert who was there. He explains who he now targets for full-time training and what to do in a worst-case scenario.
We train the community to survive 3 to 5 minutes. And why do we do that? It's that magic time when something bad happens and law enforcement is called.
What is the protocol?
It's run, hide, fight.
As Pittsburgh's first Jewish communal security director, Brad Orsini will never forget Saturday, October 27th, 2018.
It was a rainy morning.
We all went down into our sanctuary space.
I turned around, and there was the man with the gun.
Shots fired, shots fired. They have an active shooter in the building.
It was an unimaginable worst-case scenario for the Jewish community, that an individual went in with a high-power rifle, an AR-15, and just shot people while they're praying. At their most vulnerable, 11 people lost their lives, 9 families. There were 2 brothers and a husband and wife. And it was a horrific crime scene.
Orsini said it could have been worse had congregants at Tree of Life Synagogue not been trained.
The Pittsburgh community and the Jewish community trained for this, and we spent, from the time the program started in January of 2017 up until the shooting, we trained over 6,000 people in the Jewish community on basic safety measures, how to save your life.
Orsini says the #1 rule in a shooting attack is run.
It's hard to hit a moving target and give them statistics. If somebody's moving, even a trained professional might have trouble hitting a moving target. That's why active shooters are so successful, because people lay on the ground and they're executed. And we know that because they're paralyzed with fear, because their mind can't react, because their heart rate is so high. During the Tree of Life, there was a 90-year-old man who ran up 2 flights of steps, barricaded in a room, and lived.
Stephen Weiss credits the training as well as God for saving his life that day.
I ran up the side of the chapel, across the bima, and out a door that's on that side of the bima. As I was going out of the door, shots were starting to happen in the chapel itself.
I look back on it, and to me, God has a reason why I'm still here.
Orsini now trains the Jewish community in security on a national level. He says with the growth of anti-Semitism, the need is more important than ever.
We're doing a training module for our Jewish campus students as well, to give them that heightened awareness, to give those tools necessary so they can feel more empowered and resilient, because we want them to live their best Jewish life, especially on campus. They should feel free to wear a kippah, wear a Star of David, whatever that is, moving throughout the campus. If they don't feel that, we are losing.
As the threat of more widespread violence grows, combined with students back on campus and Jews celebrating the high holy days, Orsini says the priority is to be prepared and remain vigilant.
We're encouraging the community, we're begging the community, if you see a sign of hate, report it to us, and we will make sure we assess it and get it to law enforcement if actionable.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Thank you, Wendy. Well, turning now to the aftermath of Hurricane Milton. Coastal residents in Florida are trying to put their lives back together in the wake of the powerful storm. Still, despite the destruction, many are relieved Milton wasn't worse. CBN's Dale Hurd has a story.
Floridians are still discovering the full extent of Milton's destruction and learning stories of survival. This man was found floating 30 miles off the Gulf Coast, clinging to a cooler to stay afloat. The Coast Guard rescued him after he tried to ride out Milton on his fishing boat in 25-foot seas. Milton came ashore Wednesday night south of Tampa as a Category 3 hurricane. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department was going door to door on boats, rescuing more than 700 people.
Please be careful. If you feel better, go on the dry ground. We can take you there.
500 were rescued from this apartment complex. This 14-year-old boy was found floating on a piece of fence. In Tampa, a mother and son used their fishing boat to help stranded people.
These people all need help. Nobody has been here today.
In Gulf Coast communities from Naples to Venice, some have found their homes buried under as much as 3 feet of sand. 38 reported tornadoes damaged hundreds of homes. On the other side of Florida, in Palm Beach Gardens, this dumpster was picked up by a tornado and thrown onto a house. At least 6 people were killed when a tornado hit this retirement community.
When I was coming back around, there was people screaming in the trailer park, and 2 or 3 of us jumped a ditch to go check it out, and one guy was already passed away, and it looked like there was a bomb went off right there.
The Palm Beach County Sheriff called the damage in the Wellington area extensive, saying all 200 homes he surveyed were uninhabitable.
And I can tell you why, because the places that I saw looked like it was an atomic bomb blew it up.
Operation Blessing, already helping victims of Helene in North Carolina, is sending pre-deployment teams into the Tampa Bay area. OB relief workers will be taking generators, mobile kitchens, construction equipment, chainsaws, and other supplies to help those in need. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Heartbreaking scenes of not just property uprooted, Gordon, but lives also uprooted.
Yeah, the death toll is horrible. These tragedies are just, it's one after another, and we can't get into fatigue about this. We have to say we need to do our part. We need to say let's be of help. There are people who are suffering, who are in absolute desperate need, and we want to be there for them, to let them know that we love them and we care for them. Our motto is quite clear. When disasters strike, we strike back with love and compassion. We want people to know that people care about them and are willing to do whatever it takes in order to help them. If you want to be a part of the relief effort, it's real simple. Pick up a phone and call us, 1-800-700-7000. Say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can call that number. You can go on CBN.com. There's a place on the giving page to designate your gift to disaster relief. You can text OBDR to 71777, or you can write a check and just put Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line. Mail it to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Be a part of it. Be a part of helping people in need.